What's on the menu tonight? Bacon and tomato pie. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Quein with Uncle Woo. Again, you're back in the kitchen with Katie. It's too hot outside and it's almost too hot to turn on the oven, but we're gonna do it. We were gifted some amazing fresh heirloom tomatoes right off the vine from our buddy Mr. Cooper, and we can't not use them. So we're gonna make a tomato pie with our amazing Compart bacon. So let's get to it. So I'm all for semi-homemade, and so just use a store-bought crust. It's not the hardest thing to do. You can even buy one of those ones in the frozen food department, but I like the ones that roll out because they look a little more rustic. They're not the pretty, in the pressed aluminum foil tin. These you can kind of make your edges all pretty if you want. I'm not big on pastries, so I do not make my edges all pretty. All we've done is let this kind of warm up a little bit because it's, you buy them in the refrigerated section. We've let it sit out for about 10-20 minutes. And this is a 9-inch pie plate. That way we have a little depth for our tomatoes to sit in. I had never heard of a tomato pie until a couple of weeks ago. A friend of mine, Laurie, posted that she had harvested a bunch of tomatoes and she was going to make a tomato pie for dinner. I had no idea what she was talking about. Next night I had to make one for Will because, we had to try it. And now we are obsessed and we're playing with them and adding stuff to it, and now we have found that the bacon makes the pie. So what we're going to do with this is use a fork to kind of dock it. We're going to pre-bake our pie shell. That way the center doesn't get all soggy when you go to cut into it after you have baked it with the tomatoes in it. Because tomatoes are very juicy and we don't want a soggy crust. So I didn't do anything fun crimping the edges. I just kind of lay it up on the sides of the pie pan and we go from there. So we're just going to put this in the oven and bake it according to the directions on the box. And while this is cooking up, we're going to slice up our amazing tomatoes. But we're going to slice them up, and what we're going to have to do is we're going to get a lot of that moisture out of our tomatoes. Because if you have too much moisture in the tomato, then what happens is your pie gets really soggy. So we're going to start with a couple of sheets of paper towel to help drain the tomatoes. So I'm just going to slice these up. I like to do fairly thin slices because then I can layer it and make it look really pretty. This one's a gorgeous one. It's got oranges and yellows, and on the inside it's kind of a raspberry color. And I'm horrible at slicing, and I always slice my fingers, and it makes Will unhappy. Alright, so I'm just going to get that little stem area off. But look at the colors on that. It's almost like sherbet. And what you're going to do, we're going to do this for all the tomatoes, but let's go ahead and lightly salt each one. That helps to draw some of the moisture out. Also, I like to kind of, when I flip them over, punch out as much of the seeds as possible, because the seeds are where all the water is contained in the tomato. But that way your meat stays fresh, but the meat of the tomato stays fresh, and the seeds really get all the moisture out. All right, I'm going to keep slicing these up. We're going to dice up a couple of the little ones just to put on top, just because they look really pretty. have a nice little kind of round on top of the cheese mixture on the top. Really makes it nice looking. And don't worry about all these little pieces. I'll chop them up and stick them in my salad because they're delicious. Now that we've sliced up all of our tomatoes and we've salted them, we've let them set out so that they can kind of sweat out some of the juices. And what we're going to do is turn them over, but before I turn them over, I kind of like to just kind of push out as much of the seed as possible onto another paper towel and then lay them over. And that way we're getting rid of more of the moisture. See all that moisture? You don't want that down in your pie. In this bowl, I have a cup of Gruyere, a cup of Gouda, and a cup of mozzarella cheese. To this, we're going to add about a cup of our good Duke's mayonnaise. For my girls that don't like mayonnaise, I haven't tried it with Greek yogurt yet, but we're going to try that. So we're going to mix it. You may have to add a little more, but this is kind of what makes the pie a pie. We could do with a little more dab. There we go. Nice and creamy. And really, the mayonnaise is just a binder. Just remember, it's egg and oil. It's the best thing on a grilled cheese sandwich. Instead of butter, you butter your bread with mayonnaise instead of butter. All right, that's good and combined. All right, let me tell you about a little something else we've done. We have fried up some of our Compart bacon. This is the Applewood Smoked Bacon you can get from CompartDuroc.com. They're amazing. That's where Will gets all his hogs from. And this is about a half of a cup of just white onion with about 3 tablespoons of squeezed garlic, and then a little bit of butter, and all I did was cook it down on the stove so that it was already incorporated. And into that, I went ahead and added some of the Uncle Woo's Memphis Magic, which is our salt, pepper, garlic mixture. Because remember, every layer you need to season. Just because one part of it's seasoned doesn't mean everything is. And then lastly, we're going to have a couple of tablespoons of Italian seasoning, and this is oregano and thyme and rosemary, a little salt. We're going to do a little fresh ground pepper too. So let's go ahead and we're going to blot the tomatoes, get the last bit of moisture off of it, and put this pie together. So we pulled our crust out of the oven and let it sit for about 5 minutes. You see, it's just barely browned. It's not too cooked. That way we have more time for it to cook again once we put the tomatoes in. So let's put together this bacon tomato pie. First thing we're going to do, start on the bottom with a little bit of our onion and garlic mixture, just to kind of season the bottom. And to that, we're going to add our tomatoes, just layer them really good. We're going to cover the entire bottom of the shell. And because this is going to be inside the pie, it doesn't have to be pretty. It's just going to be tasty. All right, I think that looks good. All right, on top of that, we're going to do some of our Italian seasoning, which is going to give it a lovely, Will says it's almost a rustic pizza flavor. I'm going to do a little fresh ground pepper, because nothing is better than fresh ground. And then a pinch of salt again. All right, now for the bacon. This is our Applewood Smoked Bacon. Spread that over. This is 4 slices that we chopped up real good and cooked in the skillet. You don't have to use bacon, but as we say, bacon makes everything better in our house. So. And then about half the cheese mixture. Spread that out. Try not to pull up all the bacon, Katie. And more glop. A glop is an official measure, yes. It's kind of like a pinch and our dash. You know, nobody really knows, it just kind of works. So that's our glop. And then I like 2 layers. Most of the recipes I found only had 1 layer, but when Will and I played with it, we really like the 2 layers. It gives a little more heft. And it looks really pretty when you cut into it. Now that we've filled this, we're going to seal it all in with our cheese mixture. Y'all, my house smells like garlic and bacon and tomatoes and cheese. How wrong is that? A doggy hoping that I'm dropping good scraps. I don't drop the good stuff. All right, so let's top it with our little cherry tomato tops slices. Make it just a little more for decorative. Because you know, you eat with your eyes first, right? You know what, let's just do that. I like that, I think that's pretty. All right, we're gonna put this in the oven. All right, the timer's gone off. Let's see what we've got. Oh, wow. Beautifully browned cheese. Oh, and those tomato slices on the top really just give it a little pop of color. Like with most pies, we're gonna let this sit for a few minutes. That way everything inside sets up really nice, so when we cut into it and get a nice slice, you can really see everything, all the layers. All right, so we've let our bacon and tomato pie cool off, and let's slice into it and see what we've got. Oh, a flaky crust, yay. Go through those layers. There we go. May have taken us a minute to get all those tomatoes taken care of, but it's really worth it in the end so that you don't have a slimy piece of pie. Let's see. There we go. That's what we want. We've got tomato and a little bacon oozing out. Cheese all over my finger. And let me tell you, it's even better the next day because all of those flavors meld together really well. So this is definitely one of those dishes you make one day and then you can serve it the next. It's just fantastic. All right, let's try a little bite. Make sure I get a little of everything. Tomato and cheese and bacon, oh my. It's like a BLT in a pie without the T. No, the L. Let's take a bite of this. Mmm. Get those Italian spices. That smoky bacon makes this. It's like a BLT without the lettuce, but in a pie. It's divine. I really hope you'll try this. Go get some fresh tomatoes from your farmer's market or out of your backyard. It's going to definitely be worth it.
Or if you live in Bartlett, hit up Mr. Cooper.
Definitely Mr. Cooper. Thanks again to Mr. Cooper for these amazing tomatoes and to Laurie for teaching me all about tomato pies. I had no idea. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell your friends, ask us questions, tell us what you want us to cook next. Will is always willing to get out there and try something new. We'll see you out there cooking again real soon. Stay safe and God bless.